Okay, so let's start to get more practical by talking about your actual relational IQ and how we can go about improving that, or how you can go about improving that. I'm not sure if you've ever taken a relational assessment before, perhaps not. Maybe you've never even heard of one, but you probably have taken an intelligence assessment or IQ test, maybe when you were younger. Where most experts in the field of cognitive intelligence would tell us that a minimal amount of change happens really to a person's IQ over time, right after their teenage years, say. Most people would say that. But your relational IQ is very different. Your relational IQ is a dynamic thing, meaning it can change over time. It can be improved significantly. And really it should change over time, especially for those of us who are serious about becoming a more whole and mature human being. Knowing your relational IQ can be one gauge to help reveal how well you're learning and applying your skills and knowledge in relationships. If you'd like to know your relational IQ, you can take a relational intelligence assessment that the link is provided here that I've created. And this particular assessment can serve multiple purposes, one of them being a simple reflection for you and possibly a reality check that helps you identify what specific areas you need to grow in. All of us have certain strengths, relationally speaking, and certain weaknesses. And there are many aspects of developing relational intelligence that come more natural to some than to others. So you might have certain things that come more naturally or less naturally than other people. That's all okay, and something to keep in mind as we move forward together. But remember, what is it really that God wants to do in your life is really what to keep in focus. What are your strengths? Sure, you need to think about those, but what are your weaknesses? And this assessment can help you in paying attention to what you need to grow in. For every one of us, no matter what our background, no matter what our personality type, or what you've experienced in life, we all have the capacity to connect with others with skill and warmth, with tenderness and authenticity, with genuine empathy and care for others, and all such things like that. Relational intelligence is, I guess you could say, sort of like sanctified people skills. Right? It's the ability to connect and navigate relationships with love and compassion and sincerity. And people with a high relational IQ, they can read other people well. They can navigate conflict with maturity. We're going to learn some of these skills. They can interact with others with depth and skill. They know how to listen and empathize with intentionality and depth. They understand the dynamics of connection. And ultimately, they live out, as we've been talking about, the action of love as God intends. Again, for some, these things come naturally, right? More naturally than others. And it's important to stay focused on where you're at, not to compare yourself, and to see, okay, this is your starting point for growth. So let's think about how this plays out in everyday life for a moment, and even in leadership if you're a leader, right? And that'll happen in our next session.